Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you. So today we're going to talk about how to create a successful PPC campaign. And there is some, there's information in here that I'm really excited about. And I'm excited about this because a PPC is definitely a great way to get some quick leads. So let me start off actually by mentioning, the difference between a PPC campaign versus organic SEO. When should you use which? Which one would generate the leads for you? How long would that last? Would anyone like to try to or give us some feedback on when you think is a great time to do a PPC campaign versus when is a great time to do some organic SEO campaign?
What? So you would want to do PPC campaign when you have some type of event planned and you want to increase attendance?
Yes, that could be a great use for a PPC campaign, yes. Also another thing with organic SEO is that sometimes that can take a long time to build up because you have to do, it takes a while, but the results are very long lasting. So that's a good thing about the organic SEO. With PPC, on the other hand, you can get immediate results, but as soon as you turn off your PPC campaign, the results are no longer relevant. You're no longer getting the work done. So, for example, if you're like, as JJ mentioned, like an event could be a good use for a PPC because you're trying to promote one particular event, and then when that event passes, you don't need it anymore. However, if you're doing organic SEO, something that could be good for is if you're trying just to raise your overall domain authority and you have time to do it, and you're not necessarily wanting to, you don't need like necessarily quick results, but you want long lasting results. So PPC is a great thing for quick results. And here we're going to talk about how to do a really good PPC campaign. And okay, so, well, first of all, what is PPC? It is a form of advertising where you basically are paying for a click to your website, or if you're doing it on social media, it could be like a click to like a certain social media page. And so, by the way, too, let me actually mention that this can be a very interactive, discussion-based webinar. So it's just a great little group that we have here, and so feel free to ask questions or interrupt at any time. Okay, so this this graphic here shows how there's a different average cost per click in Google Ads in like depending on what industry you're in. And so, for example, this biggest one here is law and government, basically lawyers. Lawyers will have an average cost per click of $6.35. So that's just like when someone clicks on the ad. So again, like PPC is pay per click. So what you're doing is you're paying for every time someone clicks on your ad. Now, what you're not paying for, though, is for your ad to appear. So you only have to pay when someone clicks on your ad. And that number changes. It always changes depending on what type of industry you're in. So lawyers are paying some of the most expensive. Some of their ads are the most expensive. On the other hand, travel and tourism has some of the lowest costs per click. And by the way, the difference between search and Google Display Network is something that I'll mention here real quick. For Google search, what this is this is when you do a search in Google and you're on the search results page, these are where your ads will appear. On the Google Display Network, that is other places besides search. So that could be, for example, on websites that have Google AdSense, basically where you're displaying ads from Google on your website itself, or it could be from any other network. It even could be from like gaming consoles, or YouTube, or any other thing where Google basically displays ads through its tool. So that's the difference between these two. And when you're creating your ad, you can actually choose whether you want to target just search or the Google Display Network as well. When you're the topic, or the items that I'll be sharing here today will apply for any and all types of PPC that you do. That could be on social media, or it could be on Google. So when you are doing just Google, though, you have the opportunity to do like an Ads Express or just Google Ads. And the Express is very easy to use, but you have less control. And so just to kind of FY, if you're doing this by yourself, when you get started, you'll have that option right up front. You just want to use an express route or not. And so, but there are lots of opportunities to have control, and we'll touch on some of these points here and how they can be beneficial for you. When you're setting up a Google Ads campaign, or from any other thing, it doesn't have to be just Google Ads. Typically, you can divide your campaign all the way down into your different ad groups. So all your various keywords will be grouped within a certain ad group, and then those ad groups will be within a certain campaign. So, and we'll get into some examples of that too, so that you can see that as well. So this is just kind of like a high-level overview, because basically you can, when you create a PPC campaign, you don't have to have, and I don't even recommend to have just one ad. Actually, what you really would like to have is various keywords, various ads, and possibly even various campaigns, all for like a single service. And we'll talk about that. We're gonna get into that. Okay, so now when you want to set up your campaign type, this is again has to do with what I was saying. Like this is you can choose like target just the search network, which is where people will see your ad on just the Google search results page, or you can do many other things including like YouTube and shopping, where people people have the opportunity to see your ad.
Hey, Ryan.
Now, yes.
I am just wondering if do you have? Well, I'm just wondering if you're sharing the correct screen. I'm just making sure.
Thank you for calling that, John. Thank you for mentioning that. Which screen do you see?
I see your notes and Slack in the background.
That I am sharing the wrong screen. Thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. That's unfortunate. Let me change my share here.
It looks like a nice outline.
You're right.
Yeah, and those are all the to-dos.
You're right. Yes. Oh boy. Yeah. Good call, John.
Well, at least it shows us the scope required to make this happen.
Right. Yes. Yep.
There's a lot of steps.
That's right. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, it kind of looks like a PowerPoint with the number 2 in the top left. It says select your campaign type, and then there's like a storyboard underneath.
Yes. Okay.
And now we have the intro page.
Okay, good. Whoops, boy, that's unfortunate. So what I was showing you earlier, this is just a graphic that you might be interested in seeing. This is the one where I was talking about where there's a different cost per click depending on what industry you're doing. So like, as I was saying right here, the lawyers are paying some of the highest average cost per click. And then something like the tourism industry is paying a low cost per click. So it's going to be different. I often get that question, like, how much will it cost to run PPC for my business? And the answer is, it depends. It depends how competitive it is, how many other people are doing it. So it's not a simple answer. You'd have to do research into that. Now, just to kind of jump ahead here, this is a visual breakdown of what I was saying about how you can kind of divide up your campaign. And when we talk about the different campaign type, you'll have the option to choose like either a search. This is like the default one or the most basic one, most common one. In fact, I recommend this one to get started. And then we have the display, shopping, video, and universal app as well. Okay, now we're back on track. So we have a few important terms to talk about. The daily budget. So this is something that how much you want to spend per day. You can set that. It's different from a bid. And so a bid is how much you're willing to pay when someone clicks on your ad. So this there are two different options, and you can control both of them. You can control your daily budget and you can control your bid. Now, remember, you're only paying when someone clicks on your ad, not when they see it. So you'll get a lot more impressions or views, but that'll happen when someone, you'll get a lot more impressions and views, but you don't have to pay for those. You only pay for when someone actually clicks on it. And this bid is the amount that the maximum amount you're willing to pay when someone clicks on your ad. And I say maximum because Google can allow users to click on your ad for less than that maximum amount. The maximum amount, though, is set because that's telling Google how competitive you want to be with the other ads. So, for example, that could be, depending on your maximum amount, that could be the difference about you showing in the number 1 spot on the ads or the number 3 spot on the ads. The quality score is something that is a metric that tells you how relevant your ads are and your keywords to your landing page. And this is really important. We're going to get into this, but the higher the quality score is, the lower the costs are to you. So there's a lot of different factors that go into the cost of your PPC campaign. And one of those is just the industry itself. Like if you're a lawyer or versus just in the tourism industry. And then there's the quality score, like how relevant your keywords are to your ad. All of those can have a factor in how much you end up paying. So it's very important. Like this is actually really important. It's good news and bad news, I guess. The bad news is that it's really complex, perhaps, to get like a successful PPC campaign, or there's lots of steps to do. But the good news is that if you are willing to invest a little bit of time and energy into this, you can drive down your own costs. The more effective your ads are, the actual lower cost that they will be. And so we'll talk about that. Okay, so here is my 13. Yes, go ahead, JJ.
Yeah, excuse me, Ryan. So you'll define and tell us what an effective ad is?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah,
thanks.
So I'm going to talk about that right now. Going into my 13 steps, which you already saw some of my notes on. And so here they are, though. Here they are. So the first step, and we're going to go over each of these here. So in fact, actually, I won't actually read through all of these just yet because we're gonna go through each of these one by one. But basically, I'm going to show you how to go from like your service to creating your keywords, your landing pages, getting the leads, figuring out your budget, and then writing the ads, testing the landing pages, and then activating the ads. And then the best part of it is like looking at the data, figuring out where you can improve, adjusting your ads, and then tracking your success as you go. So there's lots of steps here, but they're all could be utilized for your benefit and to drive down costs. And so now we're going to talk about that. So define service, your specific service, and discover keywords. So here we have the opportunity to talk about several things. So when you are running a PPC campaign, I actually don't recommend that you link just to your homepage unless you have a good reason to do that. For example, if your website is really just like a one-page website, or if you really do want like people just to get like a general idea of what you do. What I really recommend though, if you have the opportunity, is to think about the specific service that you have to offer and do a PPC campaign for that specific service. For example, I'm going to walk you through examples today on some PPC we did for branding. So we ran some PPC to advertise our branding services, and you'll see examples of like our thought processes of how we went and how we approached this. When you're working on the keywords, this is a very fun thing. So there is a lot of ways that you can improve and figure out which keywords are applicable to you. And that's actually what we're going to look at right now. So now I'm going to go in here into this keywords. And I believe you should still be seeing my screen. Now I'm showing a spreadsheet. Do you guys see a spreadsheet?
Yep, we do.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So, all right, let me show you kind of how our thought process, how we went about this. So we offer lots of different services: WordPress hosting, WordPress maintenance, WordPress development, custom themes, custom plugins, branding, logo design, SEO, and marketing. However, it would not be efficient for us to create a PPC campaign to our homepage that is just like very general, just saying, hey, you know, we do all this. That's not efficient. And I don't recommend that for your business or your organization either. What I recommend is you choose one particular service that you want to run some PPC for. So in this case, we did branding. And what we did is we created a list of like the different ways that people talk about branding. So sometimes they call it brand marketing. Sometimes people call it brand design or brand development. And then we talked about how we can get like, by the way, too, I should mention too, sometimes people call it rebranding. We want to rebrand. And so like this column here just represented our brainstorm on the different ways that people talk about branding. So for what I'd recommend for you guys is like you pick one particular thing that you want to target, and then you write out different ways that people might refer to that, because some people would call it different things. Then what you can do is we can add words for buyer intent. So if someone just did a search for branding ideas, that doesn't really have a high buyer intent for us, for Green Hat, because that would be like something like someone is looking to go to a page where they are getting like some ideas for them to do maybe their own branding. We actually, though, a buyer intent signal is when it has something to do with, like, in our particular case, when someone's looking for a business, so a firm or a consultant or a company. And if you combine these together, a brand design consultant, a brand design firm, that actually has a great buyer intent. And so that's really important as well. When you're thinking about what you want to run some PPC for, you need to think about what's like the separate what's a great buyer intent versus not so great. And then you can come up with like adjectives that describe yourself: best, good, great, top, and then work on that. So then what we did, we created a bunch of variations of these. We created all these variations, like that based on the information that we had on the other screen, like best brand strategies, best branding campaigns, best way to grow your business, product branding company, and then you can use a tool like the Google Keyword Explorer and get a lot of information here on on how each one of these keywords perform. So, and I can show you a little bit here for the keyword planner. Here's a link in this, and by the way, we'll send up the slides after the event. The keyword planner is a tool that Google offers that helps auto suggest some keywords for you when you are thinking about your your campaign. So that's what we did. So we put those words into the keyword planner. We got all this data. And now we need to modify this. We need to study this data. So what we did is first of all, we went through all of these, and let's see, right now they're ordered by buyer intent. So we just categorized them into two categories. One had high buyer intent, two had low buyer intent. So what does that mean? A buyer intent is like when it's a keyword that relates like to that someone might actually use to find your business. For example, rebranding or a branding agency, branding company, branding services, branding firm. Those all have higher buyer intent versus rebranding workshop. We weren't really trying to get people for their workshops. Brand design, like it's very applicable to what we do. Rebranding and brand design here, these are both very applicable to what we do. But the buyer intent is not really there, because it's when someone does a search for like rebranding, that may or may not mean that they are looking to actually hire an agency. So you have to think about that stuff. Like, how can you choose a brand or some keywords that have high buyer intent for your particular business? So would anyone like to share right now or ask a question about how they can get a high buyer intent?
Yes, I'm actually interested in how can I get a high donation intent for funding our educational services.
Okay, great. Yes. Okay, good. So how can you get a high donation intent? Yeah. Okay, great. So buyer intent is what I was calling it, but donation intent is yeah, you could like look at it in that way. So yes. So let's say, okay, so this is a really good example. So JJ, you're creating a website now on information about the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and local governments, let's say. And you're trying to increase donations to your cause. So you don't want to run keywords just about support local business or learn more about what you need to know about the Declaration of Independence, what you need to know about local government. These topics may be very applicable to what you do and the type of information and type of content that you're creating your brand around. But the problem is that they have a low donation intent.
Right.
On that. So what you would want to do is, like, when you're kind of going back here on this step here, when you're thinking about, first of all, you kind of brainstorm all the different ways that people talk about your topic of choice, local government, what the Constitution means, how to apply that, what the Declaration of Independence means. You're thinking about that, but then you also have to think about what's the intent, the volunteer intent for your case. So so like, for example, like for you, when you're writing this stuff, you might include words like donations, charities, and you may not be a charity, but I'm just kind of brainstorming.
Sure.
Because if people search for something like a charity, they're looking specifically for an organization that does something like that. In fact, that's another word you could use: organization, meetup. So you could have like Declaration of Independence meetup, local government support groups, local government advocacy groups, and so it's by you're defining what that is. And so those are kind of some examples of what you would use for that. And then what you would do is that you're going to get all this data then, and you can, as you can see, we just kind of averaged it out. So like these particular ones had the average monthly search was pretty low, these for these keywords here. But these keywords start getting more and more: branding help, branding and identity, these get more keywords, and now all of a sudden, or more average monthly searches, branding firm gets a lot. And by the way, like it's going to be different for every industry, but we just figured, anything 500 or more was good for us. That's going to be different. Then we could look at the competition, and so we flagged everything that actually. Let me sort this one here. So everything that had like a low competition, which we just arbitrarily defined as 33 and below. And this is kind of arbitrary because it's gonna change depending on what your keyword is. And then so we said 34 and above to like between like 60, that was medium, and anything of 60 and above is high. And so we color coded those, and then we talked like this is actually giving you how much it would cost to get at the top of the page. So like, for example, this keyword right here, brand identity strategy, that costs an average bid of $4.11 to get in the very top of the page. That's expensive compared to some of these other things.
Yeah.
So
and yet it looks like it's low. It's rated. The competition is low, which is okay.
Yeah, the competition is low, but it's very expensive to get to that.
Yeah.
And in the top of the page or the high, it's giving you both two columns here, the low range and the high range, like $12 a click, or 12, and like this is like could be $10 a click for a business brand design. So we want to stay out of that. So basically we make this matrix that the goal is to come up with the lowest costs. So I'm going to say, like, for example, or actually, let me redo this here. Lowest costs, and actually, that still didn't give me the value. That one. We want the lowest competition. Oh, and so we want to do like low competition. I'm going to sort this by, so now we have the low competition. But we want to do like the high monthly searches, and we also want to do high buyer intent. So for example, this keyword right here, brand campaign, this is really good because it's pretty cheap. It's low costs.
$2 per click is low.
Well, yeah, it depends. Yes, I mean it's gonna be different for every industry, but for us in this particular one, yeah, $2 was kind of low on the low end compared to just like what other competitors were doing. The competition of this is very low. The average monthly search is very high too. 590 is very high versus like 10 for brand fix. But the problem though is that it didn't have a high buyer intent. Like brand campaign, that doesn't necessarily mean that's not someone who's looking to hire an agency like us necessarily. So that's really important to us. This buyer intent is very important. So in fact, actually, I'm going to sort these by buyer intent. And now the ones highlighted in yellow, basically to wrap this up, the ones highlighted in yellow were the ones that we chose were the best keywords for us to target. So this corporate brand agency is great. It has a high buy intent. It has a low competition.
I didn't know what the metric was for buyer intent. 1 through 5, 1 through 10.
We just had 2. Yeah, we just had 2, 1 and 2. That's all we did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just 1 and 2.
Okay.
But we looked at like that was, and you could go into more. You could divide that up into more. Like again, like volunteer. It could be like the high, or I meant to say donate could be like the highest buy intent, and then you can have like some other ones. But for us, we just divide them into 2. But what we're looking at is these other things too, such as the average monthly searches and the competition. So like, so for example, like these 3 options, they had high buy intent, but they had very low monthly searches. So we excluded them. We didn't do that. But we did choose this one because it had a high monthly search and low competition and kind of low cost. We excluded this one though, this item, corporate brand companies, because it had a high cost. And so we looked at this metric, this whole matrix here, and then we finally decided on these ones marked in yellow. And then so that's where we got our keywords from. And so it's really good. I'll move on just for the sake of time, but we can talk about it.
Excuse me, Ryan. So what type of as far as building a spreadsheet like that to analyze all those data points, usually how long does that take to put all those to put together a spreadsheet like that, so you will have the data to make an informed decision?
Yeah, great. It's a great question. Ali, would you like to speak about that, since this is actually what Ali is doing for Green Hat?
Yeah,
it's someone who is good with Excel spreadsheets.
Yes, someone who's good with Excel spreadsheets. Like, how long? The question was, is how long does it take to come up with this? And can you tell maybe JJ anything more about the process that I may not have mentioned?
Yeah, it generally takes me at least a couple of hours, because you have to go through, there's this really cool tool called Google Keyword Planner. And I'll put the link for that in the chat in a minute.
Yeah, and we saw that, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. So that one is really helpful if you have like a basic list of keywords. Something to keep in mind is if you put in too many keywords in there, like one time I was doing it with 15 words I'd already come up with, and then I had like 300 keywords to sort through. So it's usually a little better if you limit the amount of keywords you're putting through Google Keyword Planner. But yeah, the process of doing Google Keyword Planner takes like 5 minutes, but then the process of going through all the keywords that it spits out is what takes a little while to figure out which ones are relevant, and then go through, decide which ones are buyer intent, and then make this little spreadsheet as well.
Right, and the customer would need to work with you to come up with the keywords using that free Google keyword search?
Yes, yeah. So usually when I'm doing this for clients, I'll have a conversation with them, and they'll give me a list of like 5 to 10 words that they want to focus on for their business in terms of what they're doing, for their brand, what they want to focus on, and kind of like what services and products they offer as well. And then after that, I kind of do all the behind the scenes work for them and present them the final list with this spreadsheet at the very end. And then we can go ahead and get those implemented on their website.
Okay, so it's anywhere. So even working with the client, it's anywhere from, I mean, once you get that in your hands, it takes you 2 or 3. I do project management, so I always want to know what the timeline is for each one, because once the client hands it off to you, then you can do your work, but you need it from them first.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest time constraint, I guess, is
just it always is.
The word back from the client, and
those clients just don't get with it here.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the actual process of making the spreadsheet doesn't take an insanely long time, but it is a good like couple of hours at least.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, now there are some different keyword types as well. So when you are creating your ads, you can you can have a broad match, a phrase match, an exact match, or a negative match. These negative matches are really important too. Like if you're selling, we talked about keywords here. So far, like when you're doing organic SEO work, all this keyword research that we're doing here is just as applicable. So if you're doing PPC or if you're doing organic keyword or organic SEO, all this keyword research I think is just as applicable. Like you'd want to be writing for pages about this in your organic on your site to take advantage of organic SEO. But one thing that's different though about PPC is you have the opportunity to create some negative keywords. And negative keywords is not something you really use in organic SEO that much, but in PPC you can. Because, for example, let's say that you are selling men's shoes here. You can put for a women's, and you don't want any keywords that have the word women's in it. That is, you could create your keywords to do that, to exclude that. So, again, this is going to change business to business, but like, negative keywords can come up in PPC because you can say, I don't want my ad to appear for if it has the word women's in there, if I'm only selling men's red shoes. Okay, now for your landing pages, what you can do is, this is optional, you can create, though, many different variations of your landing pages to match the different keywords, because sometimes when you speak the exact same language as your visitors, you just create more of an emotional connection with them. And so we created like 13 different pages here. They were basically all the same, but just slightly different wording of these so that it matches what they're really looking for. So if someone searches for a brand marketing firm, they're going to see our page about a brand marketing firm. Or if someone's looking for a Denver branding agency, they're going to see a page specifically about a Denver branding agency. And here's like an example here that you can just see how this looks. So we provide best-in-class brand marketing based on your organization's personality and values. And we talk about a branding project and brand marketing. So brand marketing focused. Why brand marketing? And the reason why we do this is because this was like an example of the page that was for that talked about brand marketing. But your brand, we had a different page for branding agency that used the word agency instead of marketing. And so this is an optional thing you can do. Another example of this is we're currently getting ready to run some PPC on WordPress hosting and maintenance. And so we created a page on hosting and maintenance. And then we also have, we were creating 2 pages, one that includes the word hosting and one that does not. And then we're going to run this, but basically the content is like the same. We even reuse the same template. So, because this template, it was successful for us. So we have this template, and you can create this with any tool on your website or page. And then we just kind of created clones of it and just slightly modified the content to match what we want to run ads to. We also have forms and notifications. That's a very important part of this. So for all of your landing pages, you'll want like a contact form. Unless you're doing e-commerce, then maybe the end result is to create a or to get a sale. Like if you have an e-commerce site that you may not need a contact form, because like the end result is to for them to purchase the product. However, for us and for someone like JJ, you're not doing an e-commerce site, so a conversion for you might be when someone submits a form, a request. And so that's an important part of that. You need to think about that, as well as what you want to say after someone clicks on that form. So for example, the part one of the other keys to success is to make sure you have a good notification. So you'll want to write the notification that someone receives. So after someone fills out a form, they receive this email. Thank you for taking the first steps towards branding your company. And then we give them a little bit of information about our process, what kind of, what like the next steps will be. So they receive this email as soon as they fill out the form. And this is something that you'll want to do as well when you're creating your PPC campaign. You'll want to have a good way for them to see what are next steps. Also, after they submit the form, they're taken to a landing page, a different one that says, hey, thank you. You take the first steps towards rebranding your business. And then we wrote more in depth even about what our process is and all that stuff. So this is actually just like, they're not going to go to this Google Doc, but we use this information in the Google Doc. And so these are also 2 very important steps, because when someone submits the form, they're now in the funnel, but they haven't given you their money yet. They haven't made their donation yet, or they haven't made their purchase yet. And so it's the type of follow-up information that they receive can influence that and help make that good. Okay, so the next step is defining a budget. And by the way, before, as a reminder, when you're defining a budget, the daily budget is how much you want to spend on a total per day. And then the bid is how much you want to spend, the most you want to spend when someone clicks on your ad. That can influence where your ad appears in the position on the page, with amongst other apps, how competitive it is here. So actually, what I wanted to show here for this budget, if you are really good at spreadsheets again, and you actually want to figure out what is your max cost per click, you can use this fancy calculator that someone else created. I didn't create this one, but here it is. So you can actually plug in numbers here. And by the way, again, we'll send out the slides for this after the event, but you can plug in your numbers here to whatever you want to do, whatever makes sense for your average profit per customer. And it can calculate then what your maximum cost per click is. So you can use a tool like this to make it really sophisticated, or you can just kind of figure out, well, my average cost per click is, I can pay $2 because each time I get a click, it's worth, I'll get a donation that averages around $10, and so that's worth it. But anything more than $2 is not worth it, or something like that. Okay, how to write good ads. So this is important as well. So now that you have your keywords and you have your ads, here then is we want to write the ads for this. So this is actually where we go to write the ads. So we have these are like the keywords we're using. We're making the keyword part of the headline. And then we can, so for headline 1, it's like a branding agency. Headline 2, we are brand marketing experts. Headline 3, which doesn't always show, that's like an optional one, like depends on the space. Like if they're on like maybe a mobile, it might not show. So this was like, so you shouldn't have like really important information here for headline 3, but then you can write your description. And so we wrote all these ads here, and we kind of made some variations. As you can see, we kind of reuse a lot of the same thing, so we could test, we could see which ones are most effective or not. So we wrote a description like, we help companies define and market their brand, or your organization has a personality and values. And then the description 2 is, contact us now to put your brand in good hands, or get a free estimate. So this is kind of, you really want to be clear about what you're trying to do. You don't want to have a disconnect. If someone sees your ad and clicks on it, but then goes to your web page and sees something totally different than they're expecting, that's a bad thing. That's going to decrease your quality score and increase your cost per click. So you want to try to really make sure that what you're saying in your ad really resonates with what you're saying on your web page. And I say that because it's possible, like they don't have to, like you could technically write an ad that doesn't use any language or doesn't resonate at all with the landing page, but that's not going to be very successful. It's going to create frustration for your users, and it's going to decrease your cost per click there. So when you are writing your ads, you want to include a key phrase in the headline, and like your keywords, so that there's that the correlation between what they typed and what they see in their ad. You want to highlight the advantages, and you want to also prompt them to take action. You definitely want to include a call to action. Like, what do you want them to do? Like if you're looking for people to make donations, you could say that in your ad. Donate today to invest in your community, something like that. That could be a call to action here. And so if you want to work on this out there, like within a spreadsheet or in a Google Doc, you can know here that your headline 1 is up to 30 characters. Your headline 2 is also up to 30 characters. This is for Google Ads at least. You can write some descriptions up to 90 characters each. Now we're going to talk about how to decrease your cost per click. And so you could actually, it's very possible to decrease your cost per click by having a good quality score. And here is how like a quality score is measured. So like if you're, or how it impacts like your business here. If your maximum bid, or this is kind of an example of how it impacts your business. If your maximum bid is only $2 and you have a quality score of 10, which will give you an ad rank of 20, that your actual cost per click here is only $1.61. However, if you have a maximum bid of $6, let's say, but your quality score is a 2, that means that your ad rank drops to a 12, and that your ads are not performing as well. And what ends up happening is that your cost per click increased to $4.01 here. So in other words, what I mean to say is that like the maximum bid, remember, just as a reminder, is how much you want to, the maximum amount that you want to spend on one click. So we have $2 in this example and $6 in this example. Someone might think, oh, the person spending $6 with the maximum bid of $6 is going to be a lot more successful in PPC. Well, because they have such a low quality score, their cost per click is very high, more than double the one who has a maximum bid of $2 but has a high quality score. So this is so important. So how do you get a high quality score? Well, let me go back to this example that we were looking at here before. If one thing that you could do is you want to, first of all, make sure that your keywords match are included in your ad, and that they are included on your landing page. Very, very important. That's the reason why we created different landing pages for each keywords, because we want that synchronicity. We want that consistency from the keyword that someone uses in Google to the ad that they see, to the landing page that they go to, and then even to the follow-up message that they receive in like a notification email. We want that consistency. It's very, very important. That will contribute to a higher quality score on your ad. Also, what will contribute is the site speed and how fast your site loads for people, and like the user experience of it. By the way, too, let me actually mention one other thing too. In our landing page here, so we have given the user one option, one call to action here. They just get a free estimate, which goes down here to the contact form, and they fill it out. That's it. There's nothing else that they can do here. Oh, I guess they could email us separately now too. That's it. But like literally, like we intentionally we look, there's no menu here. There's no like home, about us, services, none of that stuff. There's no other links here. You can't click on any of these things. And we do this intentionally. You can't click on here. You can't click on here. You can't click on here. You not even this logo, even this logo in the footer, you can't click on it and go back. That's very intentional, because a good landing page, it reduces all the distraction and gives the user one action to do, one thing to do, and that is to fill out this form, or possibly, which would also qualify, is to maybe email us directly if they don't want to fill out the form itself. But that's it. We are giving them only one option and nothing else, and it's to contact us, really. So that's also a good indication, or a good landing page. And why, again, like you don't really want to link someone to your homepage. If someone goes to the homepage of your website, they may be distracted by all the different things they could do. They look, start clicking around, and all of a sudden, either something else catches their interest, or they kind of forget what they saw, or maybe even saw something they didn't want to see, necessarily. So, okay, so how is the quality of the score determined? So again, there's three big factors. One is the click-through rate. The click-through rate, I haven't mentioned that yet. click-through rate is when Google's displaying your ad and someone clicks on it, like how many clicks versus impressions. A higher click-through rate means that it's a good ad, because it's a well-written ad, because people, when they search for it, they see the click-through, they're clicking on it, and that means, versus like having lots of impressions where no one clicks on it. So ad relevance, though, I did talk about. Ad relevance is the thing where we have to have the keyword that's relevant all across the whole PPC experience, from like when they do the search, from when they see your ad, and from they go to the landing page. We want that keyword to be in there and all the way through, and that will increase your quality score. And also the landing page, and how good if they convert on your landing page, or if they just bounce back, if the quality of your landing page will also determine your quality score there. So all those things then can reduce it, which is just really good news for you, because the better you are at improving your quality score, the lower you can drive down your costs to advertise for PPC.
Oh,
and that.
Okay,
Yeah,
excuse me, Ryan.
Sure.
Yes. Could you tell me again what impressions mean?
Yeah, I can.
Click through?
Yep, I can indeed. Yes. An impression, let me go back to this slide here. An impression is just when someone sees your ad. So this is a screenshot here from Google, from lawyers, injury lawyers. So this is an impression.
But how do you know how many people were impressed by what they saw? There's no way to know.
Oh yeah, definitely there is. It'll have this in your Google Ads account. It'll tell you how many impressions you got, or how many impressions you had versus how many people clicked on it. It will tell you that for sure.
Oh, okay. So impressions means eyeballs just saw it, and that's all.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, impressions doesn't mean like did they like it or not. That's like a vague
it's just
thing, so.
the eyeball saw it. That's all.
Yes, the eyeball saw it. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Or technically, I mean, maybe the eyeball didn't even see it necessarily, but they showed it. It appeared on the search results page. Whether the person actually read it or not, Google doesn't know. Or that won't be there. But was it displayed on the search result page? That's what that is. So there are some extensions that you can do to around your ad as well. You can add in ratings. You can add in a phone number. So this is like the ad, like the basic ad here. This is like the heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. Perhaps this is the URL, and the description 1, description 2, like this. And then all this other stuff here, like these ratings, and then these site links, these call out links here. These site link extensions, these are additional things they added to their ad. You can also add like in your phone number or reviews and stuff like that. They are optional, and just yet other ways that you can enhance your ad. One good thing about using ads is that they are a business. So this is actually one time where you can call Google and get help, because this is Google's monetary strategy. Google does what they do because they're making money on the ads. And as an advertiser, you can call them and get support. So that's good news. Like that, there are options available for you to do that, to get help that you need. So, all right, let me say real quick here. Again, thank you all for coming out, because it's great for us to share this information. One reason why we share this information is because it's part of our mission to give back to the community and to provide free educational services like this. And so if you enjoyed this today, we would really like it if you could write a review for us on Google, our Google page, or our Facebook page. We'll put that information in the chat. And we would also, we'll follow up with an email of the slides and the video of this so you can come back and rewatch it. But yeah, the way that we hope that you enjoyed it, and the way that you can help us out is by giving us a nice review. But I also can take some questions now. So is there anything that I can better explain or go into more detail on?
Yes, Ryan.
Yes.
So how do you know that the keywords the client gives you are even worth anything, are viable,
Yep. So that's a really good question, and I can show you that. So in the Google keyword planner, like what Ali was talking about, here's kind of like how it would look like. So first, like you could use this keyword planner tool by yourself for free. I think you do have to have a Google account to use it. You have to be logged in to Google to use it. And it's going to give you, you can just type in some suggestions that come to, or ideas that you have. And it's also going to give you suggestions that it has. And so it's really something where like, you know your business better than anyone else. So for example, like when Ali's doing this, she will talk with the client or talk with you and really try to better understand what keywords apply to you, what don't, because there are some keywords that may not apply to you. For example, like the Constitution of Colorado, like the state constitution or something like that. Does that apply? We wouldn't know. We would need to talk with you. And so you're obviously going to know which ones are the best options for you, the best keywords that best describe your business. And like this is kind of like the exercise that you would just do. You would kind of write down like which ones you think are best apply to your organization. Did I answer your question good, or would you?
Oh, okay. So Ali has found working with clients that they are able to give good, solid words, keywords that work for them down the line.
Yeah, Ali,
generating clicks and revenue.
Yeah, Ali, maybe you could also talk about like how you talk with the clients and figure out like what even how you ask clients like about which ones are most relevant to their business, and maybe help walking them through the process just which keywords to use.
Yeah, definitely. So once you get your giant list from Google Keyword Planner, before I ever bring it back to the client, I'll usually go ahead and go through myself and look at if there's any keywords that include like brand names. You can actually, in Google Keyword Planner, there's a way you can filter out keywords that have names of other brands in it. So I do that. So those are all gone. And then I'll go ahead and like do a brief glance through. And if I see something that I'm like, okay, this definitely isn't related to what this client does at all, I'll go ahead and take it out, just to make the list a little less overwhelming for the client to review. And then depending on the client that you have, sometimes I'll send them an email with the spreadsheet and ask them to go through the words. And sometimes I'll do a phone call with them. It just kind of depends on what your client wants and is most comfortable with. But if we're doing like a phone call, I'll go through the words one by one with them, and I'll generally have them rate it from 1 to 3 in terms of relevancy for their business. So 1 would be the most relevant, and then 3 would be the least relevant to what they're trying to do. And then I'll add that into this spreadsheet like Ryan has, like buyer intent, kind of a similar format to that column, but one that is just how relevant it is to the business. And then that will also inform these like yellow highlighted words that are the final selection, because we'll look at the buyer intent, we'll look at how relevant it is for the client, average monthly searches, competition, everything like that, and kind of aggregate that into the final list of keywords.
Okay, so at the end of the day then, this process you have found works as a result, and your clients report that they're getting a lot of click-throughs and revenue generating.
Yes, and so like what we do, just to kind of show you, this is something that we, part of the very last step to create a successful PPC strategy is that you note your changes, and you kind of keep track of what you do, and you note your success, and also Google will tell you recommendations on what to do. So yes, we can like see our success. So for example, this is like, we start out with these keywords here. Then in like April 8th, 2020, so far we had, like, this is a really good example of like actual real life example of like what we did. So in April, we realized that we had 29 clicks out of 644 impressions, and only 3 conversions. So in other words, the difference between a click, an impression, and conversion.
Right.
Is that our ad was shown on Google 644 times.
Yeah.
Out of that 644, only 29 people clicked on it. Out of those 29 clicks, only 3 people filled out the contact form. So we went from 644 down to 29 clicks, down to just 3 conversions.
3, yeah.
Which equals the 10% conversion rate. And that basically ended up, and like, by the way, too, remember, when you do PPC, you're paying for this. You're paying for the clicks. You're not paying for the impressions. You're not paying for the conversions. You're paying for the clicks. So we were paying 29, we paid for 29 clicks. Out of those 29 clicks, we only got 3 conversions. And those so that, that adds up, that's pretty expensive, I guess. The cost was $49 per conversion.
Yeah, it's almost $50 per conversion.
Yes, but here's the thing about it though. That was worth it to us, because these conversions, these 3 conversions, although we only got 3, these clients ended up spending much more than $49 with us. So it was worth it. So it was worth it.
Right.
And by the way, too, like we also saw like in April that some of these keywords had really low quality scores. Some of these keywords and ads, they only had a quality score out of 3 out of 10. So we paused them, because remember, like a quality score is making you pay for more clicks. And so that's, if you get a low quality score, you want to either pause it or fix it. And so we paused that. So yeah, and then we keep track of like stuff we do, and let's see if I have anything else to kind of say of interest. I think that was like the most interesting, most relevant example to show you. But so yeah, but anyways, that was I think that was the answer to your question though, is like, yeah, you can see how many people click on it, you can see how many people convert, and then you can even see like by campaign. I mean, this is going to show you like, or by keyword and all that stuff. So you get a good breakdown of all the stuff. How many, your click-through rate, how many impressions, your click-through rate, your cost per click, then what that cost ended up being, and the quality score. So these quality scores were good, these ones were bad. And then yeah, so there's a lot of data that you can get from this. And like that's the last thing, the last secret for a successful PPC campaign is that it's not just a one-time setup and leave it. It's just you're constantly going back to it. You're looking at the data and making adjustments. You're getting rid of low quality scores. You're increasing maybe the bid for high quality scores and stuff like that. That's like the final step for creating a successful PPC campaign.
Yeah, it's a living function, so you have to check in on it on a regular basis. How often are the metrics reevaluated?
That totally depends. If you had, I mean, yeah, that could be like, just to keep it easy, it could be like a monthly thing or a quarterly thing. Or if you were spending like maybe you had like you're wanting to spend like a lot of money in a very short time because you have like an event that has like a due date associated with it, and you had like a big budget but only just a few days to advertise, then obviously you'd probably want to be in there every day, if not multiple times per day. So it depends.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming out. JJ, thank you for all your questions and interaction. That was really good. And we'll have some more events as well. And we will send up a follow-up email with this information. So thank you and goodbye.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to receiving that slide deck or whatever.
Yep.